Sorry about that. Apologies. Had a little internet issue. I'm at a buddy's house. We're going to Florida, and I just stopped in at a buddy's house, and I had to find a way to set up a stream here. Um, oh, hey, right on. Aiden, thanks for the super chat. $13.99 super chat. $10.29 American. Fortunately, I can't watch your stream, but I'll watch the replay later on when I have a chance. Happy New Year, Mike. Thanks for coming on each week to share the knowledge. Hey, thanks. Appreciate it. For the people who are just jumping on, I'm getting ready to go to Florida here. We just enjoyed our time in the Muskoka. The JW Rossa, which is beautiful, and here visiting a friend on our way now to Florida. So we're going to stop off again. So we're not going to make it all the way to Florida. Probably till not tomorrow, but the day after. I'm thinking about the time we actually get into, the East Coast and get down into Florida there, which I'm excited about because I have a whole bunch of things lined up that I'm going to do a lot of work down there, but a lot of exciting stuff. So I've got basically the next 3 months planned out for. It's really a business trip. I'm there to like grind, knock doors, go to auctions, connect with as many wholesalers, real estate agents, private individual sellers. I'm joining every private mastermind group I can get into that's, free down there, those meetup groups. Go to every meetup group, get my face to face with other people so they can see who I am. They can see that I'm a serious investor. And that's how you get it done. You got to build the systems, build the teams, build the network, start talking to contractors, interviewing local operators, all that kind of stuff. And so apologies for the low quality here. My phone's kind of glitching out a little bit, but we'll get a stream in tonight. It'll be a quickie, but it'll be a goodie. So I'm really, really excited for Florida. Excited to get away from the cold. We had such a cold snap in Canada. It was just brutal. So I'm quite excited to be free of the cold and get into the warmth down in West Palm Beach area. So really excited for that. Again, thanks for the super chat. David says, Alberta is calling. No one is talking about how Alberta led Canada in Q3 percentage growth in population more than in any year since StatCan began reporting it in 1951. Interesting stat, David. Plus 5% GST on your Airbnb business. I don't really have an Airbnb business. I partner with other people, and I often will buy properties and I'll partner with folks on it. I don't physically run any Airbnbs at all. The thing that the core value or the core competency that I bring to the table is one, the best deals. Like I know where to find and squeeze out and navigate and honestly even like put together a bad deal into a good deal by changing structure around that deal. So a lot of it's price, but it's not always price. Sometimes it's seller financing at 3%, right? That can be all the world's difference to your cash flow situation as we weather these high interest rates. So that's what I'll say is that's my God-given skill. That's what I love to do. The rest is necessary, like operations and all of that is necessary to cash flowing a quality basket of real estate assets. You need to be able to find decent operators to operate the projects. I love to collect properties. I love to find properties, turn them around, flip them, hold them, transform and unlock the value in them. Oftentimes I end up selling properties because I realize, hey, my property's worth, say it was 200 before, now it's 400. I'm like, it's hard to want to hold this when I can sell it for 400 and go buy two more at 200 and get more cash flow. So that's why I continue to cycle through assets, is because I just find better utilizations of that asset. But I'm really excited for this business trip to Florida. I gotta say, guys, like I look forward to it. Now it's become an annual thing that we do every year. We snowbird. Just after Christmas, we get up, we pack up, and we go, and we drive down. And I like that because, well, one, with my kids, it's just so much easier than flying, and it's just so much more comfortable to have our own van. I don't have to worry about renting a vehicle or anything. I can just take mine down. Yeah, the wear and tear is, I'm sure people are gonna jump in the comments later and say like, Mike, that's stupid. The wear and tear is, horrible on your van. Like driving 6,000 kilometers it's not great for the life of the vehicle, the oil changes and all the tires, maintenance and everything else, but just a comfort thing. Like it's so easy to hop on our van and go. We don't have to worry about canceled flights or delays or, and it's cheaper too. Overall, it's a lot cheaper. It's like one flight for me to drive down there. The gas is pretty efficient on this vehicle. So we got 980 kilometers of tank on our way to Florida. So I filled up my van twice, like $80 to fill up. So like $150 to get down to Florida, maybe a little bit more, depending on the price of gas, but like $150 to get down to Florida. Whereas a plane ticket's like $300. And then I have to go and fly. I have to go to London, wait at London airport, go through security. Then I have to fly from London to Toronto, to wait for the layover in Toronto. Then I got to fly from Toronto to say Orlando or something, and then rent a car and then drive 2 hours, or go to Miami and then drive 2 hours from Miami to the place where I want to be investing and staying. So it's just a pain. It's just actually a lot easier to just get in your car and drive. And it's a lot cheaper too, especially if I was buying tickets for my wife and my kids. Like, it's just, it can add up really quick. So driving is no extra cost to bring extra people. Another thing too is I can bring tools with me. If I want to do something, have some tools with me, have some stuff with me. I can bring a lot. I can pack my van with a whole bunch of stuff, which is what I've done. I've even got some graphics cards I want to bring down there and sell in USD. Little, we won't tell the border that. Got just a couple, no big deal. But yeah, so I'm super excited for Florida. I love the warm weather. It's just fantastic, and that's it. Honestly, Florida is somewhere I want to be investing. But back to the Alberta point, because David had a good point about Alberta. Interesting stats on Alberta around population growth. I think that it has a lot of potential. I like Edmonton. Friends of mine I have 3 friends now who spoke highly of Edmonton. So that's an area that I like. The cap rates there are superb, but vacancy rates are higher. So it's harder to rent out properties. It's not like you post unit and it's rented like that. It's a different world there, right? It's harder to get those top rents like you get in Ontario. They don't have the same crisis there. But as a landlord, you have all the power. You can say, hey, your lease is up, your rent's going to go up. And it's like a lot of the flexibility you have in, say, like Florida, you have in Alberta, Canada. It's like it is the West, I guess. It is the West of Canada. It's the oil hub of Canada. People are very conservative. It's a business tax is like 5% there. It's almost the same as Florida. They don't have a sales tax of 13% like Ontario. It's only 5% as well. Yeah, some of the corporate tax rates I think are like 3% even. The first 500,000 in income, and then personal tax rates are much lower as well in Alberta. So from a tax perspective, even if you're going to live in Ontario, say you're living in Alberta and you'll save tens of thousands in tax. So if you're going to have to live in Canada, the place to be is Alberta for sure from a tax perspective. Also, like just like Banff and the whole mountain situation going on, it's just beautiful. Some amazing skiing opportunities like Whistler and things like that. They're all close by from Alberta. So, and you're close to Vancouver, like you're like a day drive through the mountains too. It's beautiful. I've done the drive and it's a beautiful drive. I did it in 2018 with a buddy of mine and we camped out and it was fun. So definitely something that, you should look into if you're, a real estate investor who has some flexibility in your schedule and you can set yourself up to sort of have your primary residence in Alberta. That's an interesting proposition, actually. There's some significant potential there. One thing I is curious, I guess, or I haven't really dug into it a lot, but I wonder about prices because oil tends to dictate a lot of the. Sorry, I just plugged my phone in. Oil tends to dictate a lot of the price action of real estate, and one of the challenges is that oil long term isn't going to do well. So Alberta will need to shift at some point. They subsidize most of their current budget using oil-related activities and tax revenue. So, I mean, for 2022, oil has ballooned, right? It just shot up in price. But when oil was, $50 a barrel or $60 a barrel, it's a different story, right? That market is highly tied to that. So that's something to be considerate of. But yeah, I mean, they have, like Edmonton is not hugely reliant on oil. Yeah, so I would say that there are certain markets where within Alberta where you can invest, and if you're smart about it, you can buy some great deals right now. The higher interest rates haven't brought prices down there. Like Ontario's gone up 30% and down. Alberta's been kind of flat. Like they haven't really had a whole bunch of action, like a little bit of action recently. But if you look at like the 10-year chart, it's not the same as like Ontario where it's ripped up and come back down. It hasn't moved down very much, despite interest rates being double, in some cases 2.5 times. It still hasn't had a major impact on the price action there. So I'm wondering if that'll happen going into the future. But I guess because cap rates are so high and cash flow is so strong, that maybe that's part of why the price action hasn't changed so much in Alberta. So I'd love to see a dip because I love to buy the dip. Yeah, I could see myself buying multifamily in Alberta. I would toy with that idea. Probably will do that at some point. Rocky says, hey Mike, I bought a student duplex in September 2021 at 0.99% variable rate. I've hit the trigger point at 4.99 with an $800 mortgage increase. Sorry to hear that, by the way. He says, I'm still cash flowing $500 a month. Should I fix in or continue variable? I think we're now over the hill and you stay variable. There was a point this summer where I fixed in couple of my mortgages, and I'm thankful that I did. But if you're gonna fix in for like 1 year, fix in for a year and a half, fix in for 2 years. Don't fix in for like 4 or 5 years. Don't fix in for a long time. At this point, I would say stay variable. Over the next 5 years, you stayed variable from this point on, you'll win. It'll suck for the next 1 year, but then years 2, 3, and 4 will be much better. So if you're gonna fix in for a short period of time. I would say stay variable, ride it out. If you've got the cash flow, you're still cash flow positive. It's not gonna get that much worse. It'll get a little bit worse, but they're gonna break things, and then the rates are gonna come down. They might go back up again. It might be like a little bit of a wave on its way down, but like we're gonna see an aggressive rate hike season. I guess it's kind of coming to an end now. It'll be maybe 1 or 2 more hikes. Then we should see a fall because they'll crush the economy and they need to print money to fix things or lower the interest rates. It's possible they hold for a while too, but I think it's likely they'll hold and then they'll drop rates. They might have to raise them up again a little bit, but I don't think we'll see peaks like we did in the 80s. At least it's not likely. I could eat my words. There's always a small probability of that happening, but I think odds are in the next 2 years rates are coming back down. I would bet money on that. I am betting money on that. So that's my forecast. But yeah, definitely that's the way I would play it. I'm gonna try to keep this stream short. Actually, it's nice. There's not a lot of questions tonight. I don't know if the internet connection's poor or I know that my phone's struggling right now to connect. So sorry about the low quality, and the lighting's not obviously ideal, but we make the best of what we've got here, guys. I come to you every Wednesday, no matter what. It's rain, shine, holiday, whether I'm on the road, traveling, at a friend's house, in his basement. I'm just trying to, do whatever I can to be loyal and faithful to that commitment that I made. And so here I am every week. If you have any last questions, I'll give you like 2 more minutes to throw those in the comments. If it is a connection issue, let me know. If you guys can't hear me, can't see me, let me know. I appreciate the super chats. They help keep the channel alive. It's appreciated. And what's been up with me in this world? So, yesterday I was driving in the snow up in the Muskokas and visiting a friend, and then we're going right to Florida, right? So I was doing a turn slightly too fast, and there was someone behind me. I didn't want them to hit me, and so I turned and I slid into a snowbank. Thankfully, no one was hurt, no major damage, but that was a bit of a, oh crap. So that was a bit of excitement for yesterday, and we're having lots of stuff going on, lots of fun with the kids. We went an indoor-outdoor pool, and so we've been doing lots of stuff with them. And Emma's out of school now, my oldest, and we're gonna homeschool her. So we're embarking on a new journey, and we're gonna homeschool our 3 kids and do our own curriculum, an entrepreneurial focused curriculum with arts and science and field trips and tons of fun stuff along the way. But that's gonna allow us, I think the 2-hour school day, there's a book talks about I think it's the 5-hour school week or something. I forget the name of the book, but in 5 to 10 hours of actual academic work, you can achieve all of what they're doing in the school system with none of the wasted time, where they're lining up for recess and learning how to work in a factory, so to speak, do this, then this. There's just no. I had the same issue when I was in school. I was always told, Mike, be quiet. Mike, go sit over here, do this. Mike, sit down and do your work. Mike, this, Mike, that. And I was always performance is what matters. If I can come in and get an A on this test, why do I have to sit here and listen to you talk for 2 hours? I'm just bored. I want to talk to my friends. I want to do my own thing. And so I've found that a self-learning approach worked better for me. I thrived outside of the academic situation. Now, I pulled my shit together in high school, and I went from a C student to a 98% average. I got full ride scholarships, but that required a lot of me applying myself. I went from being a bad student to being a really, really good student to prove that I could do it. And I went through university. I kept my grades up, top quarter of Ivy, one of the best business schools in North America. And I only did that to prove, because at the time my mindset was need to get the good grades, to get the good job, got to keep my scholarship. It's all about the money, right? In hindsight, I don't even know why I went to university. I don't even know if my kids should be going to university. If they want to, I'll support them in that endeavor, and we'll get them set up in a house they can house sack and live for free and put the money towards their tuition. But there's better ways to learn the same amount of information. It's more about a social aspect than it is about career advancement. So yeah, we're embarking on that. That's been the big thing that's been on our mind this week, from a personal sharing of what's been going on in my personal life. What else can I vlog about? Stocks. Oh, let's talk about the stocks for a sec. It's been brutal. Anyone a Tesla holder? Anyone watching right now has some shares in Tesla? 40% of their value has been wiped out in a month. The last 5 days, like a third of their value is almost gone. A little over a week, a third of the value of Tesla is gone in smoke. The NASDAQ just every day down, down, down. And I have no shorts. I closed all my shorts out thinking we were at a bottom and just waiting with my long equity holdings. So I had like Meta and Intel and Amazon, a whole bunch of names. And I'm like, just sucks because like I wish I just sold everything and could buy back in at the bottom. But what I know for sure is that despite Amazon being down over 50% on the year, despite, Meta, Facebook being down 65%, Intel being down 50, 60% on the year, I know that 5 years from now, I'll be glad that I held those shares. So right now I'm just holding my long positions, not looking. I'm still beating the indexes. I'm beating the NASDAQ, which is one of the main indexes that I compete against for the year. I'm slightly beating it right now. So I can't complain, but there's pain in the market. And a lot of people are suffering right now, myself included. Like I've wiped out a quarter of my net worth almost for my stock portfolios. So it's been painful, but you got to hold those positions. I'm thankful that I had shorts on to protect that. Instead of losing 50% on Amazon, I lost 25% because I was hedging. So I didn't ride it all the way down. I wrote it down, but then I had short contracts to protect myself. I had calls that I sold, covered calls in my positions. So I wish I kept literally just before the Fed pivoted to super hawkish, I had a $4 million short that I closed out at like 292 on the QQQ, thinking we were gonna get a Santa Claus rally. I was like, I can't risk, that downside, so I'll just hold my longs and I'll re-engage my short in the new year. I was like, well, we'll have a really bad earnings season. I was thinking Q1, Q2, and we might still. I think we could test the NASDAQ at a 50% drop from the all-time highs. We're at 34% right now or something in that range. I don't know exactly where we're at, maybe 35%. The NASDAQ's down from the high earlier this year. So could we go another 15%? Possibly, very possible. We see a 50% evaporation in valuations on average in the top 100 in the NASDAQ. So yeah, I mean, we're in a recession. It's real. But you know what else is real during this time? If you can buckle down, you can find some superb deals, you can come out of this recession with double the net worth in the next bull run. So this is the time where you set up your systems, you develop, your teams, you practice doing deals, even do some deals now. And I think you're gonna be a really good situation to be blasting off in 2024, 2025. Yeah. Favorite town on the East Coast? Fort Lauderdale, I didn't much care for it, Alex. Where did I enjoy the most? I love New Smyrna. New Smyrna Beach was beautiful. It was a cute little town. I loved that, staying there. The valuations for real estate were too high, so the numbers didn't make a lot of sense, but I loved it. Port St. Lucie is growing like crazy. I like that. I didn't like Fort Pierce or in there. People like the Space Coast area a little bit more north. I like West Palm Beach is nice. Pompano Beach was great too. I didn't like really most of even Hollywood, like all in Miami there. I felt like it was like in one neighborhood it's super rough and then it was like super nice, but the price action didn't make a lot of sense for the cash flow. It's a big city, hard to drive around in. So I think it makes a little more sense maybe down like maybe really south of Miami could make some sense. But on the East Coast, I like it a lot because it's growing a ton. The weather's super warm. If you go like Tampa or you go like Central Florida, this past week, we have a flip in Lake City and it got to -6. Pipes were freezing. We had to winterize because it got to -6 at night, below zero. That's, it happens occasionally. It doesn't happen in Miami. It doesn't happen in West Palm Beach. Like it's the warmest place on average year round, I believe, in the United States. So right down in that southeast pocket. Also, it's super close to the Bahamas, which is my long-term tax planning strategy. I want to become a tax resident of the Bahamas 90 days a year. You get tax residency there. It's 60 miles away. So I would like buy a property in one of those, flight communities where they have an airport in the community and everyone has a hangar next to their house. And so you just take your plane and boom, you fly out your backyard on the strip. And 20 minutes later, 15 minutes later, you're at your other place in the Bahamas. You go back and forth. Monday to Thursday, you could be in Florida. The weekends, you could be in the Bahamas. Boom, you're a tax resident of the Bahamas. You pay no tax, you file no return personally. So that's a pretty sweet setup. You could bleed money into the Bahamas and still run businesses in the United States, Canada, etc., and just float your time between Canada, United States, and Bahamas. And that'd be my dream setup, I think, right now, with a passport in Costa Rica to also have a place to escape to South America. If there is ever, and I'm just being paranoid, but like if there's ever a war between the East and the West, or if some apocalyptic scenario where the left takes over and starts like, cutting off heads of landlords, some like crazy like Mao Chinese, like some crazy sort of communist mentality, which seems to be taking over in Canada and the United States. This, push to the left as people are suffering, they'll come after people who are at the top. And unfortunately, I believe in a meritocracy. Unfortunately, for the advancement of where our society is going, I believe in a meritocracy. And I do think that there's quite a bit of, I don't like this fact, but there's just quite a lot of hostility towards the 1%. There's quite a lot of inequality and disparity, and I hate it. But at the same time, I'd like to give people opportunities as opposed to just giving them handouts. Like I don't want to disincentivize. I'd rather, let me say it this way. I want to incentivize the top 50% of society to produce an advanced society. And I think communism doesn't do that or achieve that. So for that reason, I have a hard time, wanting to just take from the future production of society to make the lives of people now better. I strongly believe in deprivation and sacrifice now. So much so that I'm willing to sacrifice now. And I think others should be too. Unfortunately, most people don't. They want the new iPhone and the new kicks and the nice new hat and the Gucci purse, but they're broke and they work in a minimum wage job. And they're like, why do I have credit card debt up my eyeballs? And like, I can't survive in this society. It's like, it's your own fault. Let's make some changes. So I come at tackling the income disparity issue with like, it's a mindset issue. And we need to solve that through the FIRE movement, teaching financial independence to people so they can understand that each decision you make is a cost benefit analysis and that your decisions have consequences. And so make the right decisions. And we teach people how to think through a framework where they can buy their own freedom from the system. So because I believe in that wholeheartedly, and I believe that your capital can continue to work for you after you've put in the labor to build the capital, that capital can continue to work for you through technological advancement. I think there's a system where we all earn our way to complete freedom to do whatever we want. And so I see that anyone born in Canada, United States, Europe, you have that option. So don't complain. Man, the left. Sorry, I didn't mean to get political there, but that's another reason why I think it makes a lot of sense. I gotta wrap this stream up here. I've gone a little long in the tooth here. Thanks, Mike. Hope to have another property when there's more blood in the streets. Well, here in Ontario, there's quite a bit of blood in the streets. So now's not a bad time to be buying if you can negotiate good prices. Now's the time to be doing that before the pivot. But I think starting to acquire now, you dollar cost average in. Same with the stock market. It's just like the QQQ is close to the NASDAQ's close to 260. We are at highs of over 400. That's a huge wipeout in value. You could start dollar cost averaging and buying it now. I'm not closing out my long positions. I'm holding at this point. I want to own. As it gets cheaper and cheaper, I want to own more and more dollar cost average. 5 years from now, long time horizon, I'll be fine. Someone said, thoughts on the Paradise pre-construction news, and when do you think Ontario prices will be back to earlier levels? Well, it might be years before we get to those levels, right? I'm not a big, I don't know anything about Paradise pre-construction. I haven't been following that in the news. I don't believe in pre-construction. I've talked against it several times in my streams. Most of the pre-construction assets are speculative in nature, so you're buying it and trying to resell it for more later. The only advantage is if like you were going to house hack somehow and you got into a pre-construction house with a basement apartment, maybe you could put in later where you could get into it for a great price and put very little money down. And by the time you close on it, you've got better finances set up so that you can you buy a property now with a deposit in 2 years. If you're aggressively towards the FIRE movement, you might not have the money now, but you will by closing if you're a good saver. And so in those situations, it can make sense. There are certain niche situations where things can make sense, but most of the time, people buying pre-construction are speculating, hoping the prices are going to jump in the future, and they're stuck having to close on these properties that don't cash flow, and they're part of the problem. So I don't like to speculate. It's not the way I invest in real estate. But so do I think I don't know. It's very possible that we stay flat, that we don't get a rip up in the next 2 years, that real estate prices take 5 years, 7 years to get back to the highs we saw in Ontario. Could be. Inflation could beat real estate over the next few years. It's possible. It's a possible scenario. We need rates to fall dramatically for prices to rise. Alex says, when you're investing in and out of state real estate, how do you structure agreements with contractors, how much to pay when things are complete? So Alex, whenever you're doing, whether you're local with the contractor or they're out of state, regardless, you should have someone fact checking or just, I guess, checking what they're doing. It's something to be cognizant of, that like most contractors are shit, and most of them are trying to get as much out of you as they can. So they see someone out of state, they're going to try to charge as much as they can. So knowing your prices, getting multiple quotes, have your realtor, have your property manager, have different people who are independent from the contractor, who are not connected to getting kickbacks, inspect the work and go by on a weekly basis or whatever and take videos for you. Different from what the contractor's taking, because the realtor's going to look for something else, property manager's going to look for something else. You build a power team and you have people cross-check. I like to get multiple contractors in a project. I know it's more work, but the reason for that is because they check each other out. So the other contractor who comes after the one before, he talks shit about the other subcontractors that came before him, right? Like if the drywaller just finished, the taper is finished, they left everything a mess, the painter's gonna come in and be like, man, like there's deficiencies here, 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 I can't paint yet. And I can go back to them, I hold back, say 20% of the pay. I can say, hey, deficiencies are these things, remediate them, we make payment. The key is to never overpay the contractors. You don't give large amounts up front. You offer to buy the materials. Don't have to mark the materials up for you. You go out and you offer to buy them. Or you get your realtor, or you get another independent party to help transact that, or you pay for the materials. And that way you're not getting destroyed on large deposits and they take you for a ride. Some contractors take 50% up front and they take you for a ride. And they just keep 50% and they disappear. The industry is full of con artists. So I say, as someone who operates with integrity in my business, I always will pay a debt. I have a very strong credit report. I'd say that. Like when you're comparing contractors, if your contractor has a shit credit score and they don't have a lot of assets, they have nothing to lose. Why would you trust giving them more money? In the power imbalance, if you own the property, they can lien against title. And you're the wealthy one. You're the one paying out. So in most cases, I would say that you want to keep the power in your hands rather than giving it in the contractor's hands. If you ever advance them more money than they've completed in work, you give them a job schedule and you say, when this is done, you get 10%, you get a draw. When this is complete, draw. And you give them a series of draws. And only when they've completed those items without deficiency. And if you overpay faster than the draw schedule, some of the contractors are taking the money from one job to pay for the next job. And that's where you run into a situation with that's very common in the construction industry. One of the hardest businesses to run profitably. In North America, construction workers are the best construction workers go to the union sites where they do dick all. So the industry standard is like, if you're really good, you do dick all. It's just a laziness in the culture, a lot of drugs, a lot of alcoholism. It's hard work too. Like it's hard to find good people that want to do construction. If you're really good at it and you understand the engineering behind building a house, you get into a managerial role. You don't want to be swinging the hammer anymore. What you find is that you go to a trade site and a lot of the guys are a little bit rougher around the edges. So there's criminals and things like that. So you deal with a lot of contractors who have really bad credit scores. Now there are great contractors too. I'm just saying that there's lots of bad ones. So look out. I've been through my share of bad ones too. So that's something to think about and think through when you're doing it, that you want to make sure you manage the relationship so that if they walk on you for whatever reason, if there's a disagreement, you guys can settle it in court, as opposed to the contractor disappearing and have nothing to lose. If they have a low credit score, you can't even go after them. If they just stole your money and they disappear, what do they have, a truck? Maybe they owe so much on the truck, they have no assets at all. Some of these contractors are ass to mouth and literally have nothing. So you have all the assets. You tell them, hey, if we have an issue, we'll square up. I'm the one with all the money. Why would I give you that imbalance, right? So you got to make sure you negotiate fair. And good contractors will quote you out fairly. You'll have a negotiation before. You'll shake hands. You'll sign a contract. They'll follow the draw schedule. They'll get paid when they complete the work, and everything will be good. You have no issues. What that prevents, though, is the bad guys. The red flag is the guy who says, I can't start without 50% down. That's a red flag, usually. And where they want, they're not willing to do a deficiencies holdback. It's like, whoa, you don't stand by your own work? There's little things to think through. But definitely cross-check a lot of what the people are doing. Do you have 37 graphics cards still? I do. Yeah, some, I do have some. You can reach out to me on Instagram or Facebook or something, and we can connect. Is there a way to avoid paying taxes on U.S. stocks as a Canadian? There are strategies you can use to deduct and get write-offs against said holdings, but no, there is no way to avoid tax. The only way to avoid tax on U.S. stocks is to live in Puerto Rico 6 months and a day a year. Puerto Rico has a 21-year treaty when you first move there, where they allow you to collect dividends and capital gains pretty much tax-free to incentivize people to move to Puerto Rico, because it's part of the U.S. So that's the only place you can live in the entire world where you can invest in U.S. equities tax-free. There is no other country in the world where you can own US equities. You go in Dubai and you buy US equities, US is going to withholding tax. They don't withhold tax in Puerto Rico. So Puerto Rico is the only place in the whole world where you can do that. The Bahamas, though, if you don't have a huge stock portfolio, if you have, say, a nice active business, the IP of that business could be owned by a Bahamas Corp, and you could send invoices back to the Bahamas Corp, or pay people, from your Bahamas Corp, hire people from there and whatnot, or just have a corp set up and basically bleed the money out. So yeah, there's no legal way to, unfortunately for stocks, there's just no legal way to get around it. But there are legal ways to pay less tax. So look into those strategies. Most of them involve moving. So yeah, I'm not an expert. Talk to your accountant. Obviously, this is not financial advice. Alex says, hey, super chat, $5. Thank you. Thanks again, Mike. Would you buy a 4-unit short-term rental that doesn't cash flow as long-term rental as a backup? Alex, it depends. There can be emotional, like, depends on your goals, right? So if you're trying to get to Florida to have a place to snowbird for a couple of, 6 weeks a year or something, you're not going down for the whole winter, you're just going down for a couple of weeks, and it's holding itself, and you get a free place to stay while you're there, that could be a win if you're just trying to buy one property. For myself, one of my goals is to have like a huge portfolio there. So I wouldn't buy something like that if it didn't cash flow. It just doesn't make sense to me. I would much rather, if it's a great deal, buy the fourplex, turn it around, and then sell it to another investor. And then you can make a little lift there. Maybe you could flip it for 50 grand profit. That'll pay for the next 5 winters in Florida, right? So it depends, I guess, is the answer. There are investors, I can see the math behind why investors buy stuff that breaks even because of emotional reasons. They definitely feel that, or they get a lower return than they could have got on another type of asset because they feel good about that asset and they use it for personal reasons. And say, okay, I can see that argument if you're just buying a one-off property. So it depends, Alex. I can't give you, it depends on your situation. Maybe for you guys, it could work. And if the net is like your personal gain and you feel good about owning that property and you get to use it, there are some benefits there. I could see why breaking even could make sense, maybe get some appreciation on it. But if you're going to buy a bunch of properties, I wouldn't necessarily use that sort of no cash flow strategy. Oh, wow. Paradise sold townhomes for 1.5 million. They're now less than 700,000. Wow. Yeah, in the Toronto area, there are some pockets where people were overpaying for real estate and stuff is down 30, 40%. Like I said, some pockets in Oshawa and stuff, I saw 50% drop. That's wild. Can you imagine getting a mortgage, 80% loan to value, and now the prices have fallen so much that your entire 20% down payment is gone? Not only that, but you've lost 250% of what you put in. Say your down payment was 300 grand, and now to sell this condo, you have to lose your 300 grand, and you have to bring 400 grand more to close the property. You can't even sell it without giving the bank an extra 400 grand because they'll come sue you and take it from your other house, take it from your other assets. They'll seize all the assets you have. We have recourse mortgages here in Ontario, which means if you don't pay the mortgage back when the property sells, there's enough money, they'll come sue you and take your car out of your driveway, your suits in your closet, everything. So it's a really shitty situation for those people who buy into that stuff. If you've been following my channel, you know that you don't buy overvalued pre-construction that doesn't cash flow, that you can't hold for the long term. We look for value, and we look for distressed, and we look for opportunity. So yeah, that's horrible. I know I smiled there, but it's like, it's kind of nice to see, not nice, but I'm happy to see the bad operators get rightfully punished. There were a lot of really bad flippers, a lot of really bad real estate investors who were making tons of money and preaching on their social media like, look how great it is, did this condo pre-construction, made $500,000, you don't need to know anything or do anything in real estate, and like, boom, you make a bunch of money. And it's like, all these gurus were like starting to sell courses, and maybe not all of them selling courses, but a lot of them were sharing on social media their wins. And I'm like, look at these guys. I'm like, these guys don't know anything. They don't even understand a cash flow statement. These properties make no sense in a downturn. And it's like, none of these people were focused on the risk management. None of them were good executors or operators. They weren't buying smart. Their acquisition strategy was just bad. They were speculating entirely, which is just praying the market's going to go up. And it's nice to see some of those people get spanked. I hate it at the same time because like I'm suffering. My properties have all gone down 20, 30% in value too, right? So that sucks. But I'll be okay because I bought smart. So I'm still above water in all my deals. If a condo was 1.5 back then, I would have paid 900 for it, And so like, well, in that situation, I gotta still be underwater because those condos went 50% below. I think it's probably because they were overpaying for the condos in the first place. Like it probably was actually supposed to be worth 1.2, but they were hyping it to 1.5. And so people were overpaying at the top of the market more than they should have. and their realtors weren't doing them. There's a lot of realtors, by the way, who do disservices to their clients, who get them to overpay to get a big commission check. And it's all super corrupt. A lot of really bad realtors in the space. So something to think about. Anyway, I got to wrap the stream up. I'm at my buddy's house here. Thank you, everyone, for coming on the stream tonight. Oh, I missed a question here. Yeah, that's crazy. Raz, I'll do your question last. Thoughts on the government coin in the future? Are we all going to be slaves in the future? Example, say a digital coin having an expiry date. We have to spend it by X date. Yeah, the scary thing about digital coin is that they can turn it off and on. Like, think about the Freedom Convoy, the stuff that happened here in Canada about the pandemic, where I won't get into all this, but basically they've retracted and be like, oh, a lot of the doctors who were silenced by every social media platform are like, oh, actually, there is a risk-benefit analysis to getting a jab. Oh, really? There are side effects, and some people probably don't get as much benefit as the con. Maybe if they're an 18-year-old healthy individual, there's no reason for them to get it. And for us to restrict travel, tell them they can't go to the movie theaters, restaurants, go anywhere, can't even go to an LCBO or a drugstore. You stay at home in quarantine and do nothing for a year with no foreseeable future. Telling you fired from your job. They fired a lot of people I know. I have friends, nurses, construction, other people I know that got fired from their jobs. Again, wrongfully. Those people, some of their bank accounts got shut down for supporting the freedom, right? The right to choose whether you would get a medical treatment or not. And like, I don't care. Like I think people should get the vaccine if they want, whatever. I'm not one of those like crazy tinfoil hat people. Like there is a good use case for a lot of people to get it. I think there are probably some situations where it didn't make sense to force it on people, but whatever. I think that at the end of the day, a digital government cryptocurrency coin that they control the supply of, that they can print as much as they want of and burn as much as they want whenever they want, and where they can turn it off and on and shut you off, and we have a cashless society where we have no freedom, you can't do anything. I think that's a horrible situation. I'll be buying silver and gold. I'll be holding cryptocurrencies that are not regulated by the government, and we can still use off and on ramps. Cash is definitely necessary in this society to tell the government to fuck off sometimes. Sometimes 51% of the people get a little crazy and make bad decisions. And do I want to let the tyranny of the majority control my life and my freedom? I'm wealthy, so I'll be fine. I could just flee the country, right? Like, no big deal. But there are people who couldn't get out, you know? Crazy situations to get out. So, hey, we got a super chat. $50. Desmond, thanks. Enjoy Florida. Thanks for all the streams this year. Hey, I really appreciate that. Everyone jumping on tonight and, sharing all the love, and it means a lot. This is part of why I do this, is the half a dozen messages I get, or the dozen messages I get a year, where people, like the real transformative messages, where I get a long novel and someone sends me an email and they're like, Mike, you've transformed my life over the last 5 years you've been streaming. I've been following your streams, following your social media, and you've changed my life. And it's like, I didn't buy this property, I bought this property instead, and I made $500,000. And it was like, wow. I've had an impact on people and saved millions of dollars and helped people grow and change their lifestyles and their way of thinking. And for me, that's why I do it. And this is my community service and my giving back. And it's great when we can put some revenue back into keeping the channel alive. It does take a little bit to keep it going. There are some small costs, at least a camera that I got to invest in, some tripod and stuff. I have a mobile tripod right now, but I will put this to work. I do charity work every year around Christmas, and I go out and I give to, usually when I'm going to the grocery store, I'll see someone needs some food, and I'll pass it on. So typically I take these donations and I pass them on. Occasionally, if it's like $5, I might buy a smoothie and so say, hey, thanks for the smoothie. So occasionally you can donate, and I will get some benefit from it sometimes, but try to donate a lot of it. This is, again, supposed to be a community service thing for me. By and large, this investment is just helping you guys. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in tonight. You guys know the secret to unlocking a wealthier you is spend less, earn more, and maximize returns in the difference. That's it. That's the secret. I'll see you next week. I'll be in Florida. It'll be 28 degrees Celsius. It'll be like 90 Fahrenheit, I believe, nice and warm. And I'll be coming to you from a beach, or actually probably one of our newest projects. What's a week from now? What day is it today? Today's the 28th. Yeah, so we'll be in the new year next stream. And I hopefully will be at our next project that we have in Port St. Lucie. It's a beautiful 4-bed. We're going to convert it into a 5-bed, making it a really nice Airbnb. So I'm excited about that. It needs some work. The property is definitely a bit cosmetically nasty, but we'll turn it around. And yeah, so that's where I'll be coming. I'll probably be coming to you live from then, depending if the title company can close it or not over the holidays. I might be from that property, so you get to check it out and see it. So save your questions for next week, and we'll we'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.